Could this be it for Daniel Ricciardo? This is, since we recorded our post-race this week, Tim, a lot has happened. But most notably is the reports that have been swirling that Liam Lawson is set to take the V-Carb seat, not next season, but next race. Singapore could be the Honey Badgers' last time on track because as far as we know, there doesn't seem to be interest from other teams. Most teams seem to want to go more the rookie route and I think Sauber's the only one really left if Liam Lawson's jumping in, barring some sort of Sergio Perez surprise drop from Red Bull. This might be it for Daniel Ricciardo. Now, first off, how likely do you think that is, Tim? Because we even Max Verstappen was talking about it today and was very complimentary and said, he's had a good career, nothing to be ashamed of. What do you think the reality of the situation is? Are we getting an announcement after the race this weekend, before the race this weekend? What's happening?
I mean, look, if we go back to the summer break and Sergio Perez is told that he's staying at our Red Bull Racing for the remainder of the season, Daniel Ricciardo was also told he's staying at RB for the rest of the season as well. Looking at the gap between Singapore and the USGP in Austin, which is a 3-week break.
Yep.
In that time frame, we should have a better understanding as to who's going to be racing for RB in 2025. At this moment, this is all speculation that he's going to get replaced before the USGP. And a lot of the folks that I've spoken with already, they have no idea. And these people are pretty plugged in. As for Ricciardo, he doesn't even know.
Right.
He has no idea what's happening. Said that's something that the lawyers would have to kind of, take care of and look into. So his management.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to just take a guess, I would say he's probably in that seat for the rest of the season. But for next year, I mean, who knows? It kind of sounds like it's doubtful that he'll be back there in the RB seat for 2025. But again, all this stuff could change. None of us know exactly what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
All we can go off of is what we've heard. And it's tough. You can't really just follow rumors around,
Right. Well, I mean, that's what we do, right? Online. Sure. And there's so many bad ones. If they were going to make a change after Singapore, why would they do it now? Would it just be contractual obligation to Liam Lawson?
That doesn't make sense it could be, but it doesn't make sense to just take Daniel out of the car now. It's not like he's been performing poorly, since Canada. I keep saying it, he's been very good. So I don't think it's something where you just, take him straight out of the car and then just plug another driver in, because you don't know what you're going to get when you get later on down the road, when you get to, USGP, when you get to Mexico, when you get to Vegas. Daniel could capture some more points for this team, which is important for them in the constructor standings anyways. So it makes it difficult when you just take a senior driver out of their seat and then all of a sudden just plug in a rookie and want them to go and score points. That's a tall order. It's a big ask for sure.
Right. And I think obviously with the Colapinto success, people are going, oh, well, you can do this. You could just simply do this again. Liam Lawson looked great when Daniel broke his hand last year. He really did.
Yeah, he looked good.
So, he's a very good driver. So pretty fair to bet at very least Liam Lawson is in for next year. But again, nothing been fully announced as of this recording. That would mean, Tim, probably 4 rookies on the podium next year, or on the track next year. You get Bierman. You've got oh my goodness. Obviously, if Liam Lawson's in there, who else? Kimi Antonelli, and then we expect potentially with the Sauber Audi program, potentially Gabriel Bortoleto, who we're going to talk about a little bit later, but. We haven't seen, like last year, we went through an entire year. We started this year with no rookies on the podium or on the track, and that is really rare for Formula One.
Big time.
And
We
now
always
we're
have
getting four.
rookies. Yeah, I mean, we always have rookies in Formula One every year. I mean, it was crazy, starting this season, and we didn't have one on the grid until Ollie Behrman took over for Carlos Sainz at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix because Sainz got appendicitis. But I think next season will be really exciting with the younger talent coming in. And a lot of really good, talented drivers. I mean, very, very skilled racing drivers coming in. I'm really excited to kind of see the likes of, what can Kimi Antonelli do, follow his story, because that's an interesting one. Same with like Ollie Behrman. That's an interesting one as well. And, we'll see what happens with Liam Lawson and Gabriel Bortoleto and the like. And so, yeah, for me, I mean, I love when rookies come into F1 because, it's fresh blood, but they make it exciting. They make the sport exciting because sometimes like their exuberance, really shows through, and they do some things that are pretty daring and kind of just make you step back, be like, oh yeah, there we go.
Well, it's interesting too because motorsport.com did a little piece on the hidden hero behind Bierman and Colapinto's success after Baku, and it's Bruno. I think it's Bruno Michel who runs F2 and F3, and I think for a lot of years, people were like, the F2 to F1 jump is too much. The pyramid's not working. And what he's saying now is like, listen, it is working. We do need to work on the cars, especially the F2 car. And I believe the F3 car is getting an overhaul this year.
Yep.
But you are seeing people graduate. And I think part of this, Tim, too, is, the last 5 years, let's be honest, we've been living in the waves, the offshoots of COVID. And teams opting to go for veteran talent because they need stability. We can't take a risk financially. We need to steady the team. Look at that. Hey, we're doing really, really well here financially. This asset is growing every single year. This is crazy. Okay, I guess we can take some risks now. I think it seems like this driver lineup for next year in particular is us saying, okay, I think we're past that now. Let's go out and take some risks and bring some new people in.
I think also, Adam, it's the regulation as well. It does require a driver who has a lot of experience simply because of the ground effect, how many times the car can change. And then also on top of all that, how much the car changes throughout the season. And, you really do need an experienced hand to guide you through all of that. I mean, if we go back to I want to say, the 2017, 2018 cars, when we start off there as a jumping off point, I mean, yeah, you can have rookies in those cars for sure. No problem. Because there wasn't like a ton of development on them. Like there was a lot to start the season, but then as the season sort of progressed, you weren't getting like update after update after update, and the car always changing and the driver having to change with the car, etc. And those cars, I think, were a little easier to drive. At the same time, these ones are very temperamental. And to extract the speed out of these things, they're on a nice edge quite frequently. But Adam, with those older cars, I mean, you could get in and really wring the thing's neck, and you'd be okay, and you could make a lot of mistakes, and you'd be able to bring the car back. With these ones, if you get a big snap or a big gust of wind, sometimes it's really hard to bring the car back, and so having an experienced hand there kind of just helps guide you through the regulation until you've got enough data where you feel like you could put a rookie in and get them up to speed. It may take a year, but you could do it. And then there's a learning process that takes place off the track for rookies as well in Formula One. I mean, you're working with thousands and thousands of employees. Like, it's wild, man. And you're coming from Formula 2 where you're working with like 15 to 20 individuals to like hundreds.
Yeah,
it's eye-opening, man, and it's a lot for a driver to take in simply because you walk into a room and you have like 100 eyeballs sitting there staring at you, waiting for you to talk, and you're thinking like, oh God, like I gotta like talk to all these people and like, give them like my thought, like it's fear-inducing, and so you have to build that confidence up too to know exactly what you're going to say. It's a different language, and you have to be able to communicate that to hundreds of employees, like as soon as you get out of the race car. So there's that learning experience as well, Adam, that takes place off the track that takes a while for drivers to get up to speed. And then at the end of it, there's the tires. And I think that as well is a massive learning curve for younger drivers. I mean, I think Oscar Piastri is the exception just because of how, talented he is. Like he's able, like the way he learns and how fast he learns everything. He's a very intelligent guy. And to be able to learn the different compounds and to go through them and to understand the C5 does this, the C4 does this, the C3 does this, and it does this in qualifying, and it does this in this temperature, and it does this in racing, and it does this in racing with this temperature, and it does this when it rains. And so that is a massive catalog of knowledge that you need to try and soak up any way that you can. And it seems every time this guy's gotten to the car, he's learned something and he's been able to take it on with him to the next event. And so that's why I say when it comes to the tires, I would say Piastri is definitely the exception, Adam, but for the most part, most rookies take quite a while to learn the tires.
Yeah, and that's what makes it separates from somebody from being a very good driver to a potentially generational talent, which Oscar Piastri just might be, but he's got a lot to prove still, right? Yep. You gotta go out and actually convert on this. And this is coming from a McLaren fan. I love Oscar Piastri, but I'm trying to come across as unbiased. I do think though that he's spectacular. I
got a question for you, Adam. What do you think about rookies coming into F1?
I like it from a fan perspective because it's new blood. There have been times the last few years, and again, I think this goes across a lot of sports and a lot of business. It's things got a little bit stale. We're used to some sort of attrition, especially in Formula One, but we're used to change, right? We're used to things. Oh, what is it going to be this year? What is it going to be this year? And I don't think a lot of teams, businesses, people in life have been taking a lot of risks lately. Inflation's been high. The economy sucks. Jobs are hard. We're a lot of people underpaid. Like there's a lot of going on right now. It's not a great time for the average person, and I don't think it's the best time for the average business either. And so, what new blood in Formula One means to me is hope. It's like the first race of the season before the next year before the Australian Grand Prix. Nobody has lost a race yet. It's like anything could happen. Anything could happen. And that is what I love about, new drivers in Formula One. You think about the excitement of when a guy like, who we led the program with, Daniel Ricciardo, jumps in and outraces Sebastian Vettel. Mm. Wow, that was crazy, right?
Yeah.
When Kimi Räikkönen comes in and steals a world championship. Yeah,
Räikkönen was great when he came in.
Oh, he's amazing.
Alonso, when he came in, was exciting.
Very exciting. Lewis Hamilton coming in and winning within a couple years. Max Verstappen's first race he wins.
What about Mark Webber?
Oh, man. Well, in that Minardi?
Yeah.
Yeah. He scored points.
I know.
In a freaking Minardi. Yeah.
I know. That's great. That was a great race, by the way. I remember staying up and watching that when I was a kid.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. It was awesome. I love that Minardi, but sorry, get off topic.
No.
Continue.
It allows for those moments to be created. And I think, if we're being honest with ourselves, like for sure, Logan Sargent is a very, very good motor racing driver generally. But did anyone expect any big pop from him this year? No. If he was going to really get himself acclimatized and I think show his best, he would have needed another year. The team wasn't going to be patient with him on that. And so that's the way the sport is. Now, going into next year, we have Oliver Bierman, whose first race in a Ferrari, he scored, I think he was 7th place.
Something like that,
last week,
6th or 7th.
Yeah, last week in a Haas, he's 11th place. He
got points last weekend.
Oh, he did get the points. Oh, yeah, again, I keep thinking because of
him and Hamilton.
And Perez.
Yeah, right? Him and Hamilton scooted by Hulkenberg.
Right, okay. Like, he beat Hulkenberg. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Hulkenberg was a bit asleep at the switch at that point, but yeah, he had something with his steering wheel, too, he was screwing around with. But yeah. Anyway, sorry, continue.
So the point is, it's like, what can these young guys do? And that's fun. I think Eddie Jordan has talked about that on his podcast as well, where it's like, he's like, he said the sport, now, in typical Eddie Jordan fashion, he was like, sport's too old. We can't have these We get all these old guys on the sport. This is a young man's sport. What are we doing? Like he's talking about Alonso and Hamilton. I don't think Alonso and Hamilton are the problem for me. I want more greatness from the other guys. Greatness for me with Alonso and Hamilton is the fact that they're still able to race that way into their 40s. That's amazing.
Adam,
right?
you would take Alonso and Hamilton on your team.
Oh my God.
Right now. What the hell?
Yeah, I know. Sometimes he makes the right point in the wrong way. And so, but what I think what he's trying to say is you need that zip of excitement. And I think that, we knew what Zhou Guanyu was. We know what Valtteri Bottas is. We need to see, not that Valtteri shouldn't be on the thing next year. I think he's raced very, very well. But I think we need to see some new blood. I'm ready for it. I'm excited about it.
I think, we could probably talk about Valtteri now. I mean, just from the standpoint of how good he's been this season, and we compare that to seasons of past. Qualifying for me from him, he's been really good. In a car that's absolute trash. He's been fantastic, and I think Zhou Guanyu as well has really tried to do his best in really difficult machinery and equipment. And I think it's Valtteri's experience that's gotten him to, where he's been on the grid at some points during this season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily think it's a great idea to move on from him just yet. He still has a lot left in him, and he's only gotten better. It's just the equipment's just not there, so we can actually, really see it, right? We're seeing good performances. It's just they're at the back because the car is so bad. And that's tough, right? So I think this is an important weekend for Valtteri. I think he has to do quite well this weekend. He's still in conversations with Matteo Binotto over the seat at Sauber/Audi, and we'll see. I know McLaren doesn't want to let Gabriel Bortoleto go, but I mean, they're not going to stand in his way, like we had said on the podcast that we previously put out. But Alonso's people are pushing hard for him to get in there. And I think the thing is that for Fernando's people, they don't want to put him into a tough situation. They feel that he is, Formula One caliber. I think one of the things that stands out to them is he's won in everything he's entered in his first year. And for them, that's important for the Alonso team.
Yep.
And just seeing what he's doing right now in Formula 2 with a very difficult car on not the best team, he's done exceptional in a rookie campaign where he's now leading the championship in Formula 2. So, these are big things. And these are definitely things that, Alonso's group will be pushing towards the Sauber Audi group, no question. But yeah, I think it may be tough to unseat Valtteri from that seat, I think.
Yeah, I think it also because the car is just bad. Why put a rookie into that? You could get Bortoleto next year. It's not like McLaren has a driver opening coming up here.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, no, totally. You're right, Adam. You could easily take him on as your reserve driver for next year and then get him proper ready for 2026. Right? You could do that. I mean, same thing with what Piastri did. I mean, he was at Alpine for that 1 year reserve driver until Webber was able to move him over to McLaren and get him into a car soon. And this is something that they would be able to try and pull off with Bortoleto as well. And I think that would be best for him as well. Even though it sucks to kind of sit on the sideline for a year, you're still learning, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's not going to be as much of a shock when you do arrive in Formula One.
Right. And I wonder with when it comes to guys I wanted to touch back on Ricciardo. If he is officially if he is gone at the end of the year, I don't think his racing career is over unless he wants it to be.
I don't know, Adam, if he would want to keep racing. I really don't.
Not even a NASCAR or something like that. He would be hilarious in American motorsports.
But I don't think it would be something that Ricciardo would actually make an effort to go out and do. Does that make sense? I don't think he would be going and knocking on doors at a NASCAR team or an IndyCar team, asking them to put him in the car or give him a one-off or whatever, right? I think it would be for him, relaxing, being with his family more, spending more time back in Australia, that kind of thing.
And while he did leave Australia at like 12, right? So
Yes.
he spent a lot of time away. Maybe this will be sometimes the end is sweet relief too, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is. So let's move on to Red Bull here. Red Bull, obviously, we've talked a little bit about already, but V-Carb has notably come to the track with their denim livery. Red Bull is going to scrap theirs. They had two planned, I think one for the United States Grand Prix and one for Singapore here, and they're not going to do that because they're worried about the weight savings. Tim, what does this tell you about where the Red Bull program is right now?
It's not good.
That's not a good sound.
Well, I mean, like we've discussed it at quite in depth last week, our last podcast. But I mean, it's definitely not good, Adam. I mean, when you're having to switch real quick, away from the livery you were going to launch at Singapore, you were going to use for Singapore and Austin that was fan designed or fan voted on, one or the other, and put it on the F1 Academy car and stuff like that. I mean, that's tough, man. That just shows you the state that they're in at the moment. I think this weekend's going to be, really tough for them, Adam. Like really, really tough. Like, I mean, Verstappen, I was up early for the press conference this morning, and someone was asking Max about the car in Azerbaijan, and he flat out said, he's like, "Look, I knew the car was effed, as soon as I got into qualifying." So, I mean, they're hoping they're even going to get into Q3 here. So, Max is usually pretty straight up. Right, he'll tell you what he thinks. He'll tell you where he thinks they are. He's always good that way. And yeah, it doesn't sound good for this weekend, like we knew. He thinks it'll be better there this season than it was last season, but all the other teams have made so much performance gains and improvements that even though Red Bull may have gotten better at a track like this, so has everybody else.
Yeah.
So it's still kind of like you've made the gain, but everyone else has also made the gains as well, and bigger gains. So this could be it's damage limitation, I think, this weekend for Red Bull Racing.
And how do you think that they can manage the McLaren situation? Obviously, McLaren's it was only going to be 1 point, Tim, before the Sainz-Perez crash that McLaren was up. Now they're 20 points up. What do you think? What do you think's going to happen there? How do you manage that? How do you manage Max's chances? Really?
I mean, McLaren's going to be strong, no question about it. I think Ferrari's going to be really strong.
Okay,
and that's the thing, right? It's how much, how many points is Max going to lose to Lando, and how many points is Red Bull Racing going to lose to Ferrari?
Right.
Because that's what we're looking at now. Because there's no way Red Bull's catching McLaren. Not in the constructors. There's no way. Yeah. And if anything, Lando could possibly run Max down. It's going to be close, right, Adam? But I think, this is going to be a big weekend. This is a big weekend. It just is in terms of the amount of points that Lando can score and the amount of points that I think Ferrari can score. So it's if you like storylines, I mean, that's a big one.
Yeah, no kidding.
What else are we going to be watching? You know what I mean? When it comes to this race this weekend, that's it.
Now, do you think that Mercedes at this track could have a bit of a bounce back? They were looking strong, but they've had. I mean, listen, they're squarely the fourth best team, and that's not a slide against them. They are in. I would say in this sport, there's a top four, and then there's an everybody else right now, and they are the fourth of four. Where do you think they stand in a track like this?
I think they'll be okay. I don't expect anything, above and beyond from what we've seen since summer break. I think for them, we'll probably see Mercedes sort of come back to life, I think, in Austin. They've got a new floor that they're bringing for the USGP. So I think that's going to be a big track, big weekend for them. And I think they're probably going to be pretty strong there. Mercedes always usually goes really well in Texas. So does Lewis. I mean, Lewis does really well at that track. Singapore, I mean, obviously, yeah. I mean, Hamilton had that mind-blowing 2018 qualifying lap there that I don't think I'll ever forget. So like he goes well here too, but at the same time, I just don't really think the car is there just yet. Think they need to make a couple improvements to it. And yeah, it was just interesting to hear about George. I mean, we talked about it a bit last show, but just about the tires and, you know, how they really affect the car and the ride and how it changes from like a hard tire to a medium tire to a soft tire, and that massive amount of change that happens between the range. You know, it's interesting. You know, listening to Fernando Alonso today, said something similar, but you know, never really fully went in as George did when it came to the tires. And so, you know, I'm curious to see that little storyline play out, to see if there's something more there as we get further into the season when it comes to the tire compounds and how each car handles them.
Right. Well, now there's something romantic about a night race, Tim. There is just something cool about it. What is it about this track that is so unique, other than the fact that the heat is absolutely oppressive? And maybe I guess we start there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, cockpit temperatures at him like over 50. Like, think about that for a second, man.
That's crazy.
I want to know what that is in, like, what is it, Celsius? Oh, God, that's hot. That's all I got to say. Like, that is hot. These guys start training for Singapore, I would say probably back in summer break.
Okay.
That's when they start doing the heat acclimation. And so you kind of got to get your body used to that. I mean, the thing is like these guys are so fit, and there's rarely an ounce of fat on them.
No, exactly.
That it's like, if they're overheating, man, you know it's hot, because there's not really anything to hold the heat inside the body, right? Like there's just nothing there. But that's how you know it's so hot in these cars at this track, is what these guys are having to do. A lot of them will train in the sauna. They'll put their bikes in the sauna. They'll, you know, spin for 90 minutes, 2 hours in the sauna.
Spin for 90 minutes or 2 hours in the sauna, Tim.
Dude, and not
That's
even like
crazy.
And not even like just like slowly spinning, like a workout. Like we're threshold training here. Like we're not, you know, this is not easy base stuff. You know, you're doing aerobic, anaerobic training. Like you're giving it, man. And then, I mean, George does something interesting. Like he wears probably 3 to 4 layers of clothing when he does his runs after, like during the summer break and then coming out of the summer break. And so with all of those layers on, right, you're just holding heat into your body. You're just holding it in, and your body's not able to expel it. So it's the training that these guys have to do to get ready for Singapore is immense, like absolutely immense. And then, you know, obviously they have their cold tubs or cold plunges, and they use that to help recover, to kind of get the heat out of the body as fast as possible so they can like recover for the next session or the next day. And so you'll see on social media, all the teams will be posting their drivers jumping into the cold tubs and all that kind of stuff. And like, man, it's cold water. It doesn't look like it's cold water. That is cold water. Like it is cold. So there's a lot that these guys got to do for this weekend to kind of stay on top of things, Adam. That's what makes this race so exciting, so challenging. And the track is just incredible. It's fast. It's flowing. It's a challenge. You have to get close to the walls. You make a little mistake, you're going to crash, right? So it's, I mean, the last, I love the last sector and the last, 3 corners or so. They're just, they're full out. So it's great, man. I love this race. It's one of my favorites.
What can you tell us about the FIA's statement on the McLaren wing? Because obviously the front wing was the issue one week. Now Red Bull has made the back wing an issue, and this extra, it feels very double diffuser-ish.
Yes.
We talked about it on the last episode, but essentially it's like does it give them a quote unquote secondary DRS? Yes.
So, again, like another thing we went in depth on the last show, it's not basically the rear wing is is deforming at a certain speed on the straightaway. And so it kind of acts as almost like a second DRS in a way, but essentially you're limiting drag. So the more drag you have on the car, the slower you're going to go in a straight line. But by the time you get to a corner, you've already added enough downforce to the car that the wing can reform itself, and you're kind of back to where you started with your downforce levels. Now, in the regulation, it doesn't say that you can't do what McLaren's doing.
Okay.
So that's a loophole they've exploited. But again, with Formula One, every single team down the grid is doing it, man. Like everybody is doing it. Aston Martin, what was it, in 2022, I think it was, they came with this new rear wing with the side tips were shaved off of it. And everybody was like, well, hold on a second, you can't do that. And they're like, doesn't say anywhere we can't do it. So we're doing it. Next year, it was put in the regulation, you can't do it. So that's just the way this thing is. But the FIA did send me a message this morning because I'd asked them about it. And they said the FIA is closely monitoring the flexibility of bodywork on all cars and reserves the right to request teams to make modifications at any point during the season. However, if a team successfully passes all deflection tests and adheres to the regulations and technical directives, they are deemed to be in full compliance and no further action will be taken. The FIA is currently reviewing data and any additional evidence that has emerged from the Baku GP and is considering any mitigating measures for future implementation. This is part of the standard process when scrutinizing technical legality, and the FIA retains the authority to introduce regulatory changes during the season if required. So, a couple things in there. So the deflection tests we've spoken about, essentially they are static tests that the FIA can do in the garages at the end of sessions. The thing is that you can't really test for what McLaren's doing because of the way that the wing deforms. Because it doesn't, is you have the two planes, so you have the DRS when it opens, you have two planes. When it closes, you have two planes. The upper level, the upper plane is the one that's deforming and it's sort of flexing upwards, and air is able to travel sort of underneath it. So that's limiting your drag. That more air being able to shoot through there helps you go faster in a straight line. You're only really, they're only really gaining like maybe a tenth, if that, tenth and a half, if that.
Still something.
Yeah, it's still something. I think the biggest thing, Adam, is the front wing and the amount that of flexion that's in the front wing, or deflection, you would call it, I guess. But anyways, regardless of all that, I mean, it is something they're monitoring, especially the front wing. I would say that's something they're really monitoring to see what's going on there. And I think one of the big reasons why they're really monitoring all that, Adam, is just simply because they can try and find a way of writing that into the regulation for next year so teams don't do it. But at the moment, I mean, I think other teams are going to be coming to the track with some flexi wings here in the next few races. So don't be surprised if we start seeing other cars start to do this, because we're talking about this now. The teams discovered it like
months ago. Yeah.
Way back when. I want to say probably like June. So, don't be surprised if we see other teams on the grid coming to the track with something similar. It's funny because, like, McLaren never really had a history of like flexi bodywork and flexi wings. No. Mercedes did in 2021. Remember Verstappen touched the rear wing on
and he got fined. Was it 50 grand or something?
he got fined. But like Red Bull's had flexi wings before too. I'm just trying to think, like, if you like, who was working on those cars? I would say that's Rob Marshall. Rob Marshall was there then. He's now with McLaren. So, I mean, who knows, right? Like, but then again, Mercedes had the DAS. Remember that? Mm-hmm. I remember that. That blew up the internet.
Those are fun. I love this. This is what's so fun about the sport, when you really get...
Well, it's all innovation, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's so many cameras on that car now that you can't hide an innovation for long, right? Like, you just can't.
These guys are just, Adam, top class, right? Like, everyone who works on these teams are just the best of the best. So they'll find it, like, they'll see it immediately. Yeah. Like, they're combing over these cars.
I think that's what made the Red Bull domination so amazing, is that that people still just could not
Yes.
figure it out.
Couldn't
They couldn't
figure
figure
it
it
out.
out. Lastly, okay, you say Ferrari's going to be great at this track. Why?
I think so. Yeah, I think Ferrari's going to be great here. They were great here last year. They may have some things in the pipeline coming for this race too that may help. But yeah, I can see Ferrari doing really well at this track again, Adam. I mean, they were so dominant here last year. Like, they were really good. Carlos Sainz was incredible. So I mean, I can see Ferrari being really strong here for sure. Yeah, I just think it's going to be a great weekend all around. I'm really excited for it. I love this track. I love this I love this race so much, man. It's so much fun. Qualifying here is bad. I wanted us to do like a quali live thing.
Yeah,
because I love qualifying at Singapore so much, dude. These drivers are just on the limit through here. It kind of reminds me of Monaco, like trying to stitch a lap in Monaco together. Kind of feels the same way here. But yeah, regardless of all that, man, like this could be a Ferrari race, to be perfectly honest with you. It could be.
well, it's going to be a fun time, man. It's going to be a real good time.
Yeah, for sure.
So listen, Tim, we're going to be catching up Monday morning. And
Yeah,
hopefully we've had a really good race. Singapore it's tight, but there's lots of opportunity for exciting moments. I would say, right? It's a tight course though.
It's, man, like, do you ever play it on the PlayStation?
Yes. Pain. I'm not good. I am not good at road courses. I'll just put that out there. Like I think the one I'm best at is Baku. I can't stand Monaco. I can't stand it. But like, Baku, even that little spot through the castle's hard. I find Jeddah just to be impossible. I also didn't use a steering wheel. I was using the PlayStation controller.
That's the thing. I was using the controller too. You need the steering wheel, man.
You do.
Like, it's so important to have a steering wheel in those video games.
Yeah, I think so too. You know what? If I ever go back to doing it, to be honest with you, I need the video games to take a step forward. They've been basically the same game for about 5 years. So I stopped buying them because you can just play 2021 or 2022 and it's the exact same, only some of the drivers are different. As soon as they sort of really take a step forward with the game, I'll definitely buy it and get the steering wheel hooked up. I do have a steering wheel, so and maybe we'll do some streams. We'll do some Tim v. Adam streams.
Oh, God. Couple things before we take off, Adam.
Yeah.
Kevin Magnussen, he's back this weekend. So Magnussen had his one race ban in
and
the
no
Azerbaijan.
penalty points, my friend.
So now he's penalty points free, but he did say, quote, "It feels bad when the sport you love so much changes in a way you don't appreciate."
Ooh.
He's got a point.
See that this morning. Oh, boy.
I think he's got a point, though, Adam. Like, he's got a point when we talk about, like, hard but fair racing. And I don't think, again, like I had said after Monza, I don't think he deserved penalty points for his move on, who was it? Pierre Gasly. Like, I don't think that required penalty points. I don't think it required a penalty at all. Like, neither driver had massive contact. It wasn't like a collision. It was just two drivers fighting over the same piece of real estate. And so I'm good with all that. So I think some of these rules, the way penalty points are handed out and just how tough a lot of these drivers are really scrutinized or penalized by the FIA. I think that needs to be addressed. I think all these drivers need to address that and try and get some sort of consistency or change within that department. My other question for you is, what did you think of McLaren's livery for this weekend?
I love it. I think it looks great. I love that they're confident enough to do one now that Red Bull's not. So I don't know. I think it looks great. I think it's cool. I mean, I love a Flash livery. I think that's cool. And frankly, like, it keeps the sport sort of fun because there's a lot of cars running black. Yeah. And it's nice to see some color and some creativity, and I love that.
I just wish they would have put the red where the orange is.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm still waiting for them to go back and do like a Alonso Hamilton button livery as well. They did do the silver, but like with the Vodafone red in there somewhere. That I'm still waiting for that. I'd even like to see them go back and do a little bit more from the 80s, with the white Marlboro colors. So I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna do that, but man, it'd be great.
last one for you. So as a fan, when you watch Formula One, and like we get these great messages from the drivers during races,
Yeah.
we don't get that in other sports. Like, hockey players aren't mic'd, like they're mic'd up, but we're actually not really hearing what's really being said. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we're not not hearing the nitty gritty of it all, right? We're in Formula One.
You know what?
You're hearing all of it.
I feel like people criticizing that, it's like, yo, man, like I get occasionally that it can be really bad, but most of the time it's just drivers who are literally on the edge of humanity, who,
Yes.
I'm sorry, they're not going to be polite all the time. Like this whole thing about Verstappen and his race engineer GP, who is obviously going to remain his race engineer, and he was promoted, but I think it's silly to break down these radio calls and go, can you believe how impolite he was? I don't know. They're racing Formula One, man. How impolite? How polite are you when you have a bad night's sleep? It's just such a, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's ridiculous.
No, I get you.
I don't know. Yeah.
Like these guys are on the edge, right? Like they're on the edge. There's a ton of adrenaline. You have no idea how much
let
adrenaline
them be
is going
on the
through
edge.
your veins.
Let them be on the edge.
Yeah. So the FIA president Mohammed Ben Sulayem has asked Formula One to see if they could limit the amount of swearing on TV broadcast. I think he felt that drivers were swearing too much.
Okay.
And look, like, Max had some interesting things to say about it today in the press conference. I like it. I do. And and I like it from the standpoint that it's raw. Like it's stripped away. Like these guys are like on the edge, and we're getting something that not a lot of other sports get or give to the fan or whatever. So when people go online, they complain about it. It's kind of like, what do you think's being said like down on the football pitch, or like what do you think's being said in like NFL like scrimmage, like on the sidelines in huddles? Like what?
Listen,
what do you
I've
think's
been
going on there?
lucky enough to be privy to some of the things that were said in hockey documentaries that never made it to air, and it's the kind of stuff that would make people's toes curl, like in the worst way. Like they're be frozen by it. People, when they are pushed to their max, say things that in regular polite conversation they wouldn't, but these are not regular polite situations. So what do we expect? But again, it's great fodder for content and that sort of thing, and occasionally makes a good meme. I love when they take it and make it humorous, but when you take it and make it an attack on someone's character because at a very extreme moment in their life they responded and were reactive, I think that you're being unfair, and frankly, you're farming clicks. You're farming Twitter views.
What would you? That's a great point. What would you want them to do? Would you want them to get rid of the? Yeah, just leave it the way it is.
No, you got it. Listen, the thing about Formula One is it's about as real and as close to the athlete as you can get. You have athletes that are actually honest with you about, well, the car sucks, or wow, this sucks, or hey, F that guy because he made a mistake or whatever. If you get away from that, you get away from what makes the sport special. So I understand. Probably Mohammed bin Salim, I can never pronounce his name properly. I think in his position, he has to say that because it's like, I got to seem like I'm doing something. But what the reality will be is, how much enforcement of that are they really going to carry out? Probably like zero.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the drivers are going to be like, yeah, really? Oh, okay. You want me to swear less as I go through punishing 50-degree Celsius heat in my race suit for 60 laps? You want me to swear less? Stop it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to. I don't want to see them do away with it either, because I think it just makes everything. I mean, that's what it is. Like it's very real, raw. Like you're getting it. Like in the moment, what's going through their head. And I think as a storyteller or casual viewer or a fan, like you're seeing something that not a lot of other sports are giving you, like, or you're getting to see. So yeah, I would like to see them keep all of it. I would hate to see them do away with it. I don't mind if they bleep it out on the world feed and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
sure.
You can, that's fine. That makes total sense. But I mean, you can still have it. You can imagine what's being said when they bleep it out, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's fine in my opinion. But yeah,
I mean,
anyways.
we're totally okay with movies with blood and guts being available PG-13. And if a swear word is going to throw you off at a sporting event, maybe sports aren't for you. And I understand if there's kids watching and that sort of thing, like that's why you bleep it. But to, and there is the kids Formula One feed. So there's also that, right? They've made that specifically for children.
Well, Adam, you have a daughter, and it's kind of like thinking about it where it's like she'll like swear someday, like,
oh yeah. Yeah. Now
you're not around and she gets older, right?
Yeah. At 5.5, I don't want her to learn the words, Tim. But but she's probably a few years away from it. It's probably grade 3, grade 4. You start to like, oh, what word is that? That's a big adult scary word. We're not allowed to say that around our parents. Like, and if I were to watch Formula One with her, because she does watch with me sometimes, I'll put on the kids feed.
Gotcha.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Simple.
And I like, actually, the kids feed's pretty pretty entertaining when they've got it.
Absolutely.
Actually,
and I think they
really good job.
Tim, they were smart in recognizing that's the right thing. Listen, man, I grew up watching Formula One without a kids feed. It didn't make me swear earlier. I grew up watching my other favorite sport, where guys bare knuckle box on shoes made of knives on ice. I mean, that's hockey, right? They're wearing what we call them knife shoes. That's what skates are. And then they drop their gloves and punch each other out, and they're bleeding and whatever. It's sports. And I was 5 or 6 years old when I was watching that too. It doesn't make me want to go out and punch people. So
that's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, I just thought it was. I thought it was an interesting topic because it was brought up today in the press conference, and
right.
I just found it. I found it interesting. I'd like to get a fan's perspective on what they think about the world feed, or the broadcast, and the drivers in-car audio and all that kind of stuff. And I like the in-car audio, Adam, just simply because it tells you. Not for the swearing, it more so for like what's going on with the car. Like they explain things over the radio to their engineer about what's happening, and that actually it gives me a bit more information to go and ask them about, what's going on with the car. Hey, you said that it was doing this at this point. Can you explain that a bit more? And they can go into more detail and get a little more technical. So it leaves itself open so I can go and tell fans and viewers and whatever exactly what's happening with the car. So I mean, that's one of the reasons like I wouldn't want to see them get rid of the in-car audio, because I actually get a lot from it in terms of like what's actually happening like with the car and their situations.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, Tim,
buddy,
got a good weekend ahead of us. I'm ready.
It's going to be exciting. Adam, thanks for doing this, man. It's been fun.
Thank you, Tim.
Always.
All right, buddy. Take care.